Hi everyone, I'm Jake. I'm a data analyst, and today we're going to be fixing my broken Python code. It's supposed to be pulling data from a football stats website. However, because of the playoffs, it was broken. So we're going to go back, we're going to talk about the causes of this and show some solutions on how to fix it. So if you're curious about pulling data with Beautiful Soup or data scraping and putting it into a visualization report, then this video is for you. All right, let's get to it. All right, so I just wanted to come on here and talk about fixing code. Um, so really quickly, I created this code to pull data from ESPN. And when we're talking about data scraping here, technically you do want to go through a API, but in this case we're going to use Beautiful Soup. Now, I definitely recommend that when using when doing data scraping, you check the website and if it allows for scraping, because the legality of it definitely sits in this gray space. So there's a warning for you, um, but that's not what I wanted to talk about today. So essentially, what I was doing was scraping stats from these players and then creating a dashboard from these stats. So if we're going to go into here, you can see I created this Tableau dashboard on my website that shows top passers, rushers, receivers, and then, recently trending quarterbacks, top touchdown quarterbacks. How did that compare to 2023 to 2024? And then just a correlation between passing yards and touchdowns, and you could see like there's a positive correlation here between the two. So it's saying if you get more pass yards, you'll probably get more touchdowns, which does make sense because you probably have more passing attempts, more touchdowns, right? So on and so forth. But this code was working. However, when I just pulled the code, right, it it didn't update correctly like I wanted it to. And I wonder if I could show that to you really quick. So if I open up and I'll just cut this so I could edit a little bit. Oh, it may not take that much longer. Okay, so here, so you can see like this is pretty crazy. Like Joe Burrow has 43 touchdowns and then the next has 26. And you're like, whoa, Joe Burrow did really well, right? But this should tip you off that like this doesn't really look right, because if Joe Burrow got 43 touchdowns in a season and the next best person got 26, Joe Burrow would be probably worth a ton of money. So this sort of like should tip you off that this doesn't really make sense in the code. So what I did next was I went to the source code, right, which would be right here. And hold on one second. One second. Okay, so I went to the source of the data, and if we go to the regular season, we can see, and if we go filter by touchdowns, we can see that Joe Burrow did get 43, but then Baker Mayfield got 41, and then so it's pretty close. So when we go back here, it's like, well, where's Baker Mayfield? And there were some other missing quarterbacks as well. So it's like, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? And I figured it out. It's that postseason happened at this point. So my code broke. The logic of my code broke because it wasn't ready to handle postseason. So the Beautiful Soup application sort of just looked for a segment of code that I designed during regular season it was fine. But now that we're in postseason, if we go here, because I'll show you where it's being pulled, you now have this extra box for people that got into postseason. So we don't really want the postseason for this case, but what was happening was the code broke, the logic broke. So what do you do in this situation? Well, we're going to need to go and handle this, And it probably should have been something I handled at the forefront of the season, but this is how real life is. You're not going to plan for every single certainty. So your code will most likely break in the future. And I could have just uploaded that into Tableau, put it on my website, but it wasn't right. And that's something you really need to be cognizant of is you need to be looking for this stuff and like, hey, this just doesn't look right. Let me look more into it. And through that process, I found out that yeah, this isn't right. So the point of this video is that on the forefront of you need to really look at your data and just does this make sense? Like think common sense. Does it look right? And it tipped me off in this scenario, like, yeah, this doesn't look right, something's wrong. And then I figured out that all these people just didn't make playoffs, and the playoff people just aren't here. And then I'm, willing to bet that it's because of this. And with Beautiful Soup searching that HTML, it created this issue. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut the video, or, I'll probably edit. Maybe I'll just edit and take you along through it, because it might take me a little bit to decode what's going on here. But uh, yeah, so what I'm gonna have to do here is handle this 2024 postseason and sort of just ignore it. And that's what we're gonna be doing here. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna open the HTML, and you do that just by right clicking, or yeah, we could just right click on a certain element, press inspect element, and see what we have going on here. So you can see above it highlights, and now we're going to get through like a little, not an HTML lesson per se, but a little bit. So you can see that it's all being housed, all the stats on this page are being housed in this page layout main. And I'm going to put my code right next to here so we could take a look at both at the same time. My face is sort of uh, it is writing the code, but don't worry, we'll handle that. Um, so anyway, so yeah, it's all in this page layout main, and if we scroll down, we can see what are we doing here. So I'm going to, I guess we can keep this commented out for a little bit. But essentially, look, we're going to be creating a new web browser. So that's going to be opening up a web browser with Beautiful Soup and I think like Chromium or this Playwright. I think Playwright is using this. So Playwright essentially just allows us to launch a Chrome link so that we can, pull the stats in the first place. So you're going to be opening up this, creating a new page for the browser, then find player name using increment technique. So interesting. So player name. So what is this player names? It looks like some sort of array. And increment player. Okay, this is interesting. Player names. Oh, it must be up here. Yeah, so create two arrays, one for player names and one for href links. So the links are just links to the stats page, and then we just want to separate out the player names from the actual links. So it looks like what we're doing here is we're doing player names, and then we're going to be incrementing it, and then to get a singular player name. And you could see here that we have this for loop that will essentially run through the links, which means it'll run through for every single player individually. It'll go through this process to pull stats until it reaches the end of the href links, which would be really the end of the player. Okay, so the end of all the players, right? So in this case, it would just be quarterbacks, but we are pulling running backs and receivers, but we don't need to get into the details. We are just trying to fix this code. So we get the player name, we get the player position, then have list reset after each player will be stored in data frame. Okay, not really sure, but we're going to get the game log list, and this is going to store all of the games for the player. So this array will keep all of those stats for the player. and it'll probably be a list of lists or a array of arrays where this first row up here will be one array, this will be another array, this will be another array, and then you'll store it in this game log list, which is an array of its own. So then we're gonna go here. We're going to do this href link. So we're going to be splitting the link for whatever reason to get x. And then for some reason, oh, I see. Because we're going to be taking a link and essentially trying to get to the game log here. So we're essentially trying to get from here, this href link, this is the link, but we have to transform it to get to this stat page, which would be here. And that's all we're doing with this right here. And this should be better commented. That's just bad code essentially. Definitely something I could fix in the future. So we're going to be going to this new page and we're going to be delaying it just so we don't do anything until it actually loads up. So we're basically going to that new page and then sleeping, delaying until giving the new page an opportunity to load, right? So everything here looks good so far, but this is where we're having the problem. So once we get to this page is where we're having the problem. So we're starting to get closer, right? And this is sort of the process you need to go through is like segmenting your code and understanding, okay, where is this happening? And there's certain tests you can do that we're going to be doing, and I'm going to show you. But essentially, this is a good technique of saying, like, okay, at this point, I'm okay with uncommenting this code because I know that this is not the problem, or so I think right now. And then you can see here. So this is where we're going to start pulling the HTML. And this is where I believe the problem truly lies. So we're going to pull HTML to info. So we're going to do fit page container. So here we're going to see what's going on. So I think the page container, oh here. So this is the fit page container and you can see it's just labeled as so. So it's all of this essentially. So it's telling us, okay, let's go into here first. And this is sort of just like an order of operations and dwindling down from sort of telling the computer, okay, you have all this HTML code, right? It's like this. We don't care about any of this other stuff. We just want to get to this main fit page container. So now all the computer's gonna worry about is everything in this main area. And it doesn't need to worry about this other stuff so it doesn't get lost, right? So it's more source focused, it's more specific on the area we want to get to. So that looks good. So I'm not worried about that line. And then we're going to be doing create beautiful soup. So, and what does beautiful soup do? I think it just like create beautiful soup from HTML. I think it just like creates the HTML and then puts it in a form that's easier to start using um, to like start pulling data from. So you can see here that like we're going to use Beautiful Soup to pull this HTML. So this is the HTML we're pulling, this fit page container area. And then on this next line, we're using Beautiful Soup to say, okay, we just took all this HTML, stored it in this variable GameLog soup, and then now we're going to do GameLog soup.find, and we're going to say, okay, find the T body, which this is the tag, and we'll get into tags in a second, where the class equals table T body. So let's find where that was going to be. And you don't really see it, which is interesting. And that just means it's sort of deeper in. So, and maybe that's the issue. But what we're going to do here is sort of just get more specific. And all I did right there is right click and did inspect element because I wanted to see more specifics here and see if we can find this T-body, class T-body. And you could see this, oh, right here. See, And this is probably the issue, is that you could see there's a table T body here in the postseason area, but if we go into here, we could see, where is the T body here? See, and you could see even I'm getting lost. So if I'm getting lost, then no duh that the computer's also getting lost. So, and again, this is just what decoding is. Sometimes it takes me a while at least. I think that's pretty normal, I hope. Okay, so it's like here. Let's expand that. See, and it might be going into there, which is why it's giving me this. I just want to get rid of this playoff portion though. Okay. And you could see this is why. This is probably why. Because now T-body doesn't seem like it's a great indicator anymore. Like we might want to do this MB4, right? We might want to see if it can find this. Oh no, but look, MB4 is there as well. So you sort of want to start finding a differentiator in between the postseason and the regular season. So let's see. And this takes a little bit of time. There might be a better way to do this, but I don't know the better way to do it, if there is. Table align, border collapse, border spacing. See, like even these are called the same thing. So I'm trying to find like a differentiator between the two. So you see MB4, MB4, events table. Responsive table is color controlled. Responsive table is color controlled. So they're all the same. Flex, flex. Table scroller. What I'm assuming I'm going to have to do is look for this 2024 postseason and 2024 regular season and just use like search for this regular season, which is going to require a little bit of work. I was hoping it would be something easier than that, but it looks like they sort of use the same stuff. So it looks like we have to go into here. See, like this might be the indicator. 2024 regular season. So like get the text of this, right? Because see this class T body. At this point now you're in the data we need, and I think it's the same differentiator here. Gosh. Yeah. I wonder if you could skip, and this is something I'm gonna look into. Like if I did T body, and this might take some testing, and I won't show all this to you. This is how the sausage is made though. So I'm thinking two things I could do. Either look for the text that says 2024 regular season and ignore the other one, or somehow just take the second instance of this class T-body, class T-body. I wonder if it's finding both. And this is actually a test that we can do. So let's just do this live. And if you get bored, maybe I'll edit it, maybe just skip ahead. We're only 18 minutes in. Maybe I could solve this a lot faster than I thought. But what we're gonna do here essentially is you could see, and this is actually really interesting when it comes to testing, and maybe you shouldn't skip it if you're new to programming. Is that what we can do here is print this catered game log soup, so this T body, And let's see what it's printing out. So what we're going to do here is run this code. And where is the code? Oh, okay, so here. So what it's going to do here is take the passers, the top 50 passers. Then it's going to go into, it's going to run every one of those top 50 passers individually. And that's what we're about to see here. But, and I'll show you this, we're not going to test all 50. We're going to test only 5 of them. So I took 50 of them and then I dwindled the list down to 5 just so I can test this. And you can see here what we're doing. And we will see after I test the 5 what it will print out. So there's the 5th one. Now everything should cancel out and it should be done. And now we can see down here sort of like what did we just pull. And maybe you could even do this with 1, I'm thinking, because you could see even with 5, it's sort of tough to read. But you could see here, title, Pittsburgh Steelers. Why would it pull Pittsburgh though? Who the heck is on Pittsburgh? Shouldn't it be Joey B, Joey Burrow? Oh, Bengals Steelers. Oh, because it's pulling that game maybe. So let's go to Joey Burrow. And let's make sense of this. And if this is ESPN watching, just don't watch. Just, okay, so Joey B, it's going to be fine, right? Because the first game is versus Pittsburgh. So you can see that this is Joey B. And it's pulling the Pittsburgh game, and then it should be pulling the Denver game. So if we looked a little bit more, I'm sure we would find somewhere it says Denver. Boo 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 boo. Which I can't find right now. Here, Denver. So you can see it's pulling fine. But when we get to this next T-body, it's going to be pulling Washington Commanders. So let's see what's going on. And hopefully this is the next one. So we're going to go to Baker. We're going to go to passing. And boom. That's exactly what's happening here. So it's pulling Washington Commanders, which isn't a bad thing. But it's also then pulling, is it pulling the regular season as well? So let's take a look at that. So it's pulling Washington Commanders, and then we should see the next one be the Saints. NFC Divisional, and I think it's not. I think that's why. Look, it's not pulling, it's only pulling that first section. It's not finding that second section because it's just not coded for it. So you could see, and you could sort of see this visually. Like, look how short Baker Mayfield section is. It's only that. And then look at Joey Burrows. It's all of this, all of this. So you just visually could tell something's not right. So we wanted to skip over the first one and pull the second one. And I'm trying to think how we're going to do this. Because you can't just do that for everyone, I don't think, because not everyone went to the playoffs. So you can't just say like T-Body 2 or like T-Body 1, right? And try to get like the second portion of it. That's not going to work. So it's almost like, I wonder if like it's going to be something like this. Shoot. Like if has post season then do something, but else just kind of, we're going to be fine doing this, right? So if it had, and this is not exactly the code that we're going to be using, but we're essentially going to split it into postseason players and non-postseason players. And they're going to have to search for that regular season. And then after that, uh, everything else should actually work out because after that, we're going to just be left with the regular season. And all of this code should then work exactly how it's going to work. So I'm going to stop the video here, right? I'm going to figure out how to get this code to work, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to show you the code. So let's cut right now. All right, so we're back, and I came up with this handy dandy little trick to fix this issue. So the issue was originally that right here, we were just finding one T body, but as we saw, if I bring up this again, nope, sorry, that was Joe Burrow didn't make the playoffs this year, but Jared Goff and the Lions did. So there was actually two T bodies. There was this one and there was this one. So we actually needed to use a find all statement instead of a find statement. So after we did a find all statement, we took the length of that and assigned it to the count variable. And then essentially we just said if the count was greater than 2, meaning there was multiple T-body classes, we knew the playoffs existed. But if it was less than 2, then we knew uh, it was only sorry, they didn't make playoffs. So we were able to just take the first element if they didn't make playoffs. If they did take playoffs, take the second element. And I can show you that visually here if I see where I put here. So if they did make playoffs, take the second element. And if they did not make playoffs, like Joe Burrow, it doesn't really matter because there's only going to be one, so we're just going to take the first element. So after we go through that step, everything else will be exactly the same. And this pull does take about 20 minutes because I'm going to be pulling quarterback, running back, and receiver. So I'm going to, I guess I opened it up multiple times, but essentially I'm going to stop the recording now. I'm going to run it, and then I'm going to show you the final product. One other thing I'll mention when we're trying to like test our code is not only like commenting out code and sort of testing it piece by piece, right? I'll like say, okay, does this section work? Does this section work? Okay, piece by piece. What I'll also do is add these print statements. This way I can see visually what is occurring in these steps. So this is just for testing purposes, but I can remove all this now because we are no longer testing really. So I'm gonna go ahead, stop the recording, and come back when I could also delete this. Anyways, I'm gonna come back here in a second and I'm gonna show you what the final product looks like. Okay, so let's take a look at what we have now. So before, if you recall, when we were taking a look at this graph, we saw that there was a big distinction between Joe Burrow and the next level, and now it was like 43 and 26, when now we can see there's a lot more leveled out statistics, right? You go from 43, 41, 41, 37. So that looks a lot more correct. And if we go through the rest of the dashboard to look for distinctions as well. We could take a look at the top running backs. Yeah, there's a gap here of 40. It doesn't hurt to take a look at why that's occurring actually. Especially we can see that the rush yard difference is almost a 500-yard rush difference. So there actually might be something going on with that. That's definitely something we're going to want to take a look at. And then if we go to receivers, you could see actually we're seeing the same, right? So top 24, top 2024 top receivers, we could see reception yards for this person 1700, while the next best is 1271. Now, this could be correct, right? It depends what we base the top receivers on. It looks like it's based on fantasy football points here. So it's possible, but again, it would be a little weird that this person, Jamar Chase, scored 100 more points than the next best, Drake London. So, in my mind, that's definitely something I would want to look into. And this is sort of how you do this analysis. I don't want to say trial and error, but it's about knowing your data, understanding your data, and looking for things that maybe don't look right to you, right? And that's sort of how we solve errors that may occur, whether that be in the data pulling process, the cleaning process, or the visualization process. Or maybe when you're creating certain calculations, you're not creating them correctly. So it's definitely something you want to do. You want to be reviewing your data. You want to make sure you understand what the data is telling you and make sure you look for potential errors in the data. So if you want to take a look at this project, you could just go to my website link, jakelender.com, and you can go into the projects tab to the NFL stats analysis, and you can take a look at the public dashboard here, or you can go into the GitHub, and you could take a look at the Python data exploration in here as well, or the data pull if you want to take a look at specific Pythons to understand how this project functions. So that's it. Hope you enjoyed the video. I know it's a little longer. Gonna try to make these maybe more edited, more condensed, but I wanted to just get this idea out there and show just add an overview of how I check my data and how I make changes to code as the data may change throughout time, and sort of how to play with that code to see where the error is lying. So I really hope you learned something. If you did, like this video, subscribe. I plan to drop more videos, and comment below if I did help you out or you might have any questions about this process or maybe just data analysis in general, and I'll for sure try to help you out. Thanks a lot. Thanks for tuning in. See you next time.